What if losing everything you love is the only way to find the one person you are meant to love forever? The old folks used to say that blood runs thicker than whiskey, but Sloan Merrick had never believed it until the morning she stood before the burned remains of the Cedar Ridge schoolhouse. The April wind carried the sharp bite of wet ash, the kind that sank into clothes and skin and hope. Sloan pressed a handkerchief to her nose, but the smell still stung her eyes. 3 years of teaching frontier children had lived inside those simple pine walls. Now nothing was left but blackened boards and a sky that looked just as ruined as her heart. Behind her sat a worn carpet bag with the few things she'd saved: a Bible from her mother, a small photograph taken before life had broken them all, 2 dresses that hadn't burned, a pearl-handled brush, the last pretty thing she owned. Everything else had gone up in flames the night someone tossed torches through windows during the cattle feud between the Danvers and Harland families. Folks blamed one side or the other, but nobody stood up to accuse anyone. Fear traveled faster than the truth in frontier towns. Mrs. Kingsley, the banker's wife, had let Sloan sleep in her home for 3 nights, but this morning she'd made her position clear. An unmarried woman could not stay any longer. Not with 3 grown sons in the house, not with the talk it might start. So Sloan tied her coat tight, lifted her bag, and walked away from the only life she'd known. Spring rains had soaked the road west toward Sagebrush Valley. The mud tugged at her boots and splattered her stockings. Her feet hurt before she reached the first mile. Her back ached before the second. By the third, she had stopped counting entirely and started praying. Quiet, hopeless prayers that barely made it past her lips. She tried not to think about Thomas Whitmore, the man who had promised her a ring and a future. She'd believed him until the night she saw him at the spring dance with Lucy Carver, the rancher's daughter who wore a new ring on her finger and pride in her eyes. He had called it a smart match. Sloan had called it betrayal, though only in the dark, where no one could hear how her voice cracked. By late afternoon, her feet were bleeding inside her boots. By dusk, the rain began, light at first, then heavy enough to soak her coat in minutes. Lightning tore the sky open. Thunder followed close. She forced her legs to keep going. If she didn't reach Sagebrush Valley before nightfall, anything could happen to a woman walking alone. At last, she saw lamplight glowing across the shallow basin ahead. Sagebrush Valley. A place she'd never been. A place that might reject her just as easily as it welcomed her. She reached the first building, shaking from cold and exhaustion, and stepped into the Silver Spur Saloon. The warmth inside hit her like a wave. Smoke, whiskey, and lantern light filled the room. Men paused to stare, curious and bold. Sloan walked to the bar, her legs barely holding her weight. "Whiskey," she said. The bartender blinked. "Ma'am, you sure?" Quote, "Yes." She drank it in one burning swallow. She needed the numbness more than she needed breath. That was when she noticed him. He stood at the far end of the bar, tall enough that the lamplight struck only his broad shoulders, not his face. When he finally stepped closer, Sloan realized she had never seen a man built like this. Strong, quiet, steady. His dark green eyes held a storm she couldn't name, and he looked at her like he understood she wasn't just tired. She was broken. "Conor Prescott," he said. "My friends call me Con. You look like you've had one hell of a day." Sloan didn't answer. She was afraid her voice might crack. "You wouldn't," he continued, "happen to be the schoolteacher from Cedar Ridge, would you?" "I was," she said, "before it burned." "I heard." "Damn shame." He signaled for another drink and slid it toward her. "You planning to stand all night?" he asked. "Or want a chair?" "I'm fine." "I doubt that," he said softly. Whiskey on an empty stomach makes folks say yes to the wrong things. Sloan managed a small breath. "Speaking from experience?" He smiled without joy. "More than you know." Something settled between them then. 2 strangers carrying wounds too heavy to name. When he asked where she planned to sleep, she admitted the hotel was full. A cattle drive had taken every room. "There's nowhere safe for a woman alone," Conor said. "Not tonight." "I'll manage. "No," he said, steady and certain, "not tonight. I've got a ranch house 3 miles north. Big place. Empty. You can stay there. One night. A warm room and a lock on the door. I don't know you. You know enough," he said. "And you know what happens to women who sleep in stables." He wasn't wrong, and she had nowhere else to go. "Just one night," Sloan whispered. Conor nodded. No triumph. No expectation. Just a man offering shelter because it was the right thing to do. The storm worsened as he rode with her behind him on his horse. She pressed close to stay upright, her hands gripping his vest. He wrapped his coat around her shoulders and guided them through mud and lightning until his ranch house rose out of the darkness like salvation itself. Sloan barely remembered climbing the porch steps. She remembered warmth, towels, firelight, a bedroom waiting upstairs, dry clothes folded in his hands, his fingertips brushing hers, a look in his eyes she didn't understand. She remembered wanting safety. She didn't remember wanting him. Not until later, when exhaustion blurred her thoughts, when loneliness cracked open the last of her defenses, and when the man who'd saved her stood a little too close in the soft glow of the fire. Something shifted. Something dangerous. Something that would change both their lives in ways neither one could imagine. Sloan woke the next morning, unsure of where she was. For a moment, she thought she was still in Cedar Ridge, before the fire, before losing everything. Then she felt the softness of the mattress, the warmth of thick blankets, and the quiet comfort of a house that did not belong to her. Memory washed over her. The storm, the ride, Conor Prescott, his home, his kindness, and the way her guard had slipped the night before. She dressed in her still damp clothes, gathered her courage, and walked downstairs. Conor stood in the kitchen frying eggs, his hair still wet from washing and his shirt clean but wrinkled. He looked like a man who worked hard and slept little. "Morning," he said, not looking up at first. "Coffee's on the table." She sat quietly, pouring herself a cup with shaking hands. She didn't know what she expected, awkwardness, anger, or indifference, but Conor set a plate in front of her like they'd shared breakfast 100 times. "You need to eat," he said softly. "Then we should talk." Those words tightened something in her chest. She ate in silence while he watched her with an unreadable expression. When she set her fork down, he leaned back in his chair. "You've got no money," he said calmly. "No job, nowhere to go. What exactly was your plan when you walked out that saloon door with nothing but that bag?" "I was going to find work," she said quietly. "There's a town west of here, with a school that already has a teacher, stores that already have workers, houses that already have wives." His voice stayed firm. "Hope doesn't feed you, Sloan. Not out here." Quote. She stared at the table, shame burning her throat. "I'm offering you a job," Conor said. "Not charity. You stay here, you work here, I'll pay you fair. You'll have a room, food, and time to figure out your next step." "And last night?" she whispered. "Does that matter to you at all?" His jaw tightened. Something clouded his face. Regret, maybe, or fear he didn't want to name. "Last night was two people trying to survive a hard day," he said. "But it doesn't have to decide anything. What matters now is giving you something steady." It stung more than she wanted it to. She'd known he'd say it, but hearing it still hurt. "I'll work," she said, "but we keep things professional." His eyes flickered. "If that's what you want." "It is." But neither of them truly believed it. That first week settled into a rhythm. Sloan cleaned the house, cooked meals, washed linens, and tried to stay out of Conor's way. Conor rode out every morning with his ranch hands and returned exhausted every night. They spoke only when needed. "Thank you. Supper's ready. I'll take care of that." Quote. It should have worked. It didn't. Because the more days passed, the more tension grew in the quiet spaces. Small things tugged at them. He left muddy boots on the clean floor. She cooked meals he said were too salty or too plain. He worked late without warning. She slammed cabinet doors without realizing. One night, after he complained about the biscuits for the third time that week, something inside her snapped. "If my cooking bothers you," she said sharply, "you're welcome to make your own meals." He looked up, surprised. It was the first time she'd raised her voice in that house. "I'm just saying they could use improvement. And I'm saying criticism without help isn't useful. I'm doing the best I can, Connor. I'm not one of your ranch hands. And I'm tired of feeling like I'm failing every time you walk in the door." He wiped a hand across his face. "I don't have standards. I've lived alone for years. I eat cold beans and sleep in dirty sheets. You don't fall short. You exceed anything I've ever had." "Then why do you act like everything I do is wrong?" Quote, "Because," he burst out, stepping closer, "I don't know how to be around you. I don't know what we are. I don't know what I want. And I'm trying like hell not to cross a line we agreed not to cross." Silence filled the kitchen. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "I don't know," he said. "That's the problem." Sloan looked down. "Maybe I should leave." "No," he said instantly, fear flashing across his face. "You're not leaving." "Why not?" "Because this house was dead before you came into it. Because I like coming home to you. Because I don't want you gone." Her heart hammered. "Tell me you don't feel it too," he said quietly. "Tell me you don't think about that night." She closed her eyes. She had thought about it. Every night. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "Most good things start that way." He lifted his hand, brushing his fingers along her jaw. She sucked in a breath. "Sloan," he said softly, "tell me to stop." But she didn't. Instead, she kissed him with all the fear, anger, and longing she'd tried to hide for weeks. His arms went around her, her hands tangled in his shirt. They stumbled against the wall, breathless, both of them tired of pretending. Later, when they lay tangled on the kitchen floor, warm, breathless, shaken, Connor started laughing. Sloan couldn't help smiling too. "We just broke every rule we made," he said. "We broke them weeks ago." His smile faded into something gentler. "So where does this leave us?" "I don't know." "I do," he said quietly. "I want you to stay, as more than hired help, but only if you want that too." She didn't answer right away. She was scared. Hope was dangerous. But his eyes were honest. "All right," she whispered. "I'll stay." For a few weeks, life felt almost peaceful. They worked side by side. They laughed sometimes. They shared the same bed each night. Sloan felt happiness she hadn't known in years. And then everything changed. One morning, she woke sick. And the next. And the next. Sloan counted the days. Counted the weeks. Fear wrapped around her chest like a band of iron. She was pregnant. She tried to hide it, tried to pretend it was nothing. But Connor saw her pale face and trembling hands. "Sloan," he said one morning, "we need to talk. Something's wrong." She tried to speak, but tears came first. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Connor froze. The color drained from his face. His expression shut down like a door slamming shut. This wasn't supposed to happen," he whispered. "I know." "I can't," his voice cracked. "I can't be trapped like this. I can't be a father. I never agreed to this." His words hit like a blow. "I don't want anything from you," she said quietly. "I only thought you deserved to know." "Well, now I know," he said, voice rough with fear. "And I don't know what you expect from me." "Nothing." He turned away, pacing like a man cornered by his own past. "I can't do this, Sloan. I can't be what you need." Those words broke her. The next morning, she was gone, and Conor Prescott didn't know yet, but letting her walk away would be the worst mistake of his life. Sloan walked until her legs burned, and her heart felt scraped raw. She didn't look back at the ranch. She couldn't. If she did, she feared she'd crumble right there in the road. She headed east, toward the only family she had left, her cousin Marin, hoping for shelter, hoping for kindness, hoping for anything that didn't hurt as much as Connor's words. Marin welcomed her with soft arms and warm food, but her husband, Kellen, watched her too closely from the moment she arrived. Sloan tried to stay out of his way, but every day he lingered in doorways, looked too long, spoke in ways that made her skin crawl. She told herself she was imagining it. She wanted to believe she was safe. She wasn't. The day Marin went into town and left Sloan alone, Kellen cornered her beside the laundry line. His hands grabbed her, his voice turned ugly, his breath hot against her cheek. Sloan broke free, ran, screamed, fought like a woman with everything to lose. Marin returned to find chaos. Kellen lied first, said Sloan stole from them, said she attacked him. Marin believed her husband. She told Sloan to leave, face hard and cold. With $2 to her name and a child growing inside her, Sloan walked away again. Alone, terrified, lost. There was only one place left in the world she could go, and only one man she prayed would open the door. When she reached Conor's ranch at sunset, she saw the house was a mess. Dishes everywhere, dust thick on tables, clothes left where they fell. Conor hadn't been well. Her chest pinched at the sight of it. Before she could knock, the door opened. Conor froze. He looked hollow, like a man who hadn't slept more than a few hours in 2 weeks. His eyes were red, his jaw unshaven, his shirt wrinkled like he'd worn it for days. When he saw her, he looked like he was staring at a ghost. "Sloan," he breathed. "I had nowhere else to go," she whispered. "No one else." He stepped aside instantly. "Come in." Inside the warmth of his home, she told him everything. The attack, the lies, the fear. Conor's face darkened, his fists tightening until his knuckles whitened. "Did he hurt you?" he asked, voice low. "He tried. I fought him off." Conor stepped closer, jaw shaking with fury. "I swear, if that man ever comes near you again." She shook her head. "Conor, I know you don't want this baby. I know you don't want me here. I'll leave in the morning. I just—" "Stop." She blinked. "What?" "Stop," he repeated. His chest rose and fell hard. "I don't want you here for one night. I want you here because this is where you belong." Her breath caught. "You said." "I know what I said," he whispered. "I was a fool. I was scared. I hurt you because I didn't know how to face what I felt. When you left, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. You took the light with you." Tears blurred her vision. "Sloan, I love you," he said. "I've loved you since the night you walked into that saloon with mud on your hem and fire in your eyes." Her heart cracked open, too full to speak. Conor cupped her face gently like she might break. "I'm begging you." "Stay," he whispered. "Stay and let me try to be the man you deserve. Stay and let me love this baby. Our baby." Something in Sloan unclenched. All the fear, all the hurt, all the loneliness. It dissolved under the warmth of his voice. "Yes," she whispered. "I'll stay." Quote, he kissed her softly, reverently, as if making a promise he intended to keep forever. 3 days later, they were married in the small church at Sagebrush Valley. People whispered about timing, about how fast it all happened. But Conor didn't care. He held her hand as if he'd never let go again. Sloan wore a simple blue dress. Conor borrowed a suit from the general store. And when the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Conor kissed her like she was the only truth he'd ever known. Months passed, and Sloan's belly grew. Conor worked the ranch while Sloan kept the home running. They laughed, they argued, they made up. They learned each other's rhythms, each other's fears, each other's joys. Slowly, the wounds of the past faded. Then trouble came in the form of a wild black stallion. Conor tried breaking the horse himself. One kick sent him flying. He hit the ground hard, ribs snapping under the impact. Sloan dropped everything and ran to him, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Conor lay gasping, pale, hurting, but alive. The doctor ordered 6 weeks of bed rest. Conor hated every minute of it. Sloan stayed by his side for every one. She fed him, bathed him, read to him, argued with him, soothed him, and held him when pain made his hands shake. One night, as she helped him drink water, he caught her hand. "Why are you doing all this?" he whispered. "You're my husband," she said softly. "You'd do the same for me." He blinked, tears gathering. "You saved me, Sloan. You brought me back to life." She rested her forehead against his. "We saved each other." Winter came with deep snow and fierce winds. Sloan went into labor on a freezing January night. Conor paced the floors, praying harder than he ever had. When the baby's cry finally echoed through the house, he ran upstairs, breathless. Sloan lay exhausted, glowing, holding a tiny bundle. "Come meet your daughter," she whispered. Conor sat beside her, eyes wide with awe. When the baby blinked up at him, he broke, right there, quietly, completely. "She's perfect," he whispered. "What should we name her?" He swallowed hard. "Caroline, after my mother." Sloan smiled. "Caroline Prescott, she's beautiful." Life after that unfolded like a sunrise, slow, glowing, full of promise. More children came. Mason, Raina, then twins Bryce and Talia. The ranch grew. Their home expanded. Sloan taught ranch children in the kitchen. Conor became the father he'd always feared he couldn't be. And their love, it deepened. Grew stronger, weathered storms without breaking. On their 10th anniversary, Conor asked her if she'd go back and change anything. "No," she said. "Not a moment. Not even the hard parts?" "Especially not the hard parts," she whispered. "They brought me to you." He lifted her hand. "I'd do it all again," he said. "Every mistake, every fight, every tear, if it meant I got to keep you." Years passed. Their children grew. Their land stretched farther than the eye could see. And on quiet nights, when stars filled the sky and the ranch settled into peaceful sleep, Sloan and Conor would sit on the porch swing, listening to the world breathe. Blood had bonded them. Love had saved them. And together they built a life no fire, no fear, no past heartbreak could ever take away.